Thanks. And just as Senator Klobuchar leaves the room, I just want to urge them to give us something that we can vote on today to keep it going. Thank you very much. And I want to apologize because I'm a little hoarse. I've got my couple of cough drops with me. But I was thinking here, Jean, as you were speaking of the two senators, I look at a lot of things through the lens of my own life and my own life experience. I think it's important that we bring those things to the Congress. And I thought about my 20-year-old cat that I left this morning, and that's 140 years old. She has really lived her useful time. And I thought for our lives, I mean, we're living in much the same way as my 20-year-old cat. And, you know, she uses a litter box a little bit more often, and she requires a little bit more attention than usual. And I only have her, and she just has me. And when my son left, he's now 25 years old, he's working on his own. I'm always proud to say that as a mom because he pays his own bills, and I'm very grateful for that. But he left me with the cat. And when he did, he said that he left her because he was worried about her. He didn't think that she could take a moving with him, and that he wanted her to be comfortable as she ages and all of these things. And I said to him, I only hope, because I got one shot at it with one child, that he considers me in much the same way that he considers our 20-year-old cat. And then I thought a bit about my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was widowed when she was 60 years old. She then went on to live another 28 years. My mother was widowed when she was 50 years old, and she is working on her additional 28, 30, 35 years as well, and actually in really great health and very active. And the fact is, and when I got married young and was married for a while, and I, like most people who get married, I mean, you do it because you think it's going to last, and it didn't. And I think that our lives mirror the lives of so many women around the country who, for one reason or other, find ourselves as we're aging on our own. And yet we haven't made the kind of financial preparations that we need to make that successful. My grandmother had her children and grandchildren who took care of her as she aged and as she had a stroke and needed someone to take care of her on a day-to-day basis. My siblings are around for my mom if she needs us. My son is only one. I have 3 sisters and a brother, and there are only 2 children among us. And so for him, that means that not only might he have the responsibility of his mom and his parents, but actually of a generation of parents. And so it really does concern me how I plan and how we plan for our future, and whether that's about long-term care or making certain that we have a Social Security system that gives me a little bit more income in addition to what I'm able to save. But the fact of the matter is that it really wasn't until very recently that I found myself able to save. I paid off my last student loan, $100,000 worth of student loans. The month that I was elected, I won my primary election for the United States House of Representatives. That kind of debt and debt burden keeps you from doing other things like save for retirement, make the kinds of investments that you need to make. And I sort of scratched along. I ended up getting very sick at one point when I didn't have any health insurance because I thought I was nice and young and healthy with my young son. And ended up getting very sick and actually almost lost my home and my entire life to foreclosure because of hospital bills that I ended up with. And it took me years to pay those off. And so what I'm sharing with you is that the challenge for us as policymakers is not that one woman or other is able to do well, but it's about the kind of systemic changes that we have to make certain that we have policies so that women both retire comfortably and live out our lives however long it is that we live. And I think, so for example, shoring up Social Security, what does that mean? It means we have a Social Security system that I think is, as Senator Klobuchar said, is built on a model where people just didn't live as long. And that in order to shore that up, I believe that we could do very simple things, lifting that cap on Social Security or even moving it to $250,000 or $500,000 would do a tremendous amount to ease that burden for future generations and to make sure that it's a system that's there. When you think about pay equity, my goodness, although it is true that young women coming out of college are close to where that parity is with their male colleagues, the fact is that when young women graduate college, that pay gap starts on that day. And that's for this generation. And so we have to do something about that. That means that a family is deprived of a quarter of its income if that pay gap exists. And so those are things that could go into savings and into retirement. Things like childcare that most of the developed world, all of the developed countries offer, and we don't have the kind of quality and affordable childcare. And so yes, it is true. I did take my son to that board meeting when he was very, very sick and couldn't go to school, and I laid a blanket out on the boardroom floor, and he slept and took a nap as I medicated him. And I finished my board meeting. But my goodness, women should not have to do those kind of things that enable them to both have a professional career and do well at it, but also not worry about their children and whether they're ill or not and they have child care. And so I think there are some deep systemic things that we need to do. And for women-owned businesses, fastest growing women-owned businesses are among African American and Latina business owners. And yet, you know, when you look at the rooms across the country, those businesses are not thriving in the same kind of way. But those women are saying we want the alternatives of being able to start our own businesses, and they do it when you talk to them for so many different reasons that are also about their economic security. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'll participate as much as this voice will hold out. But again, I'll bring you back. When I am my 20-year-old cat, I do want to make sure that I'm able to take care of myself in retirement and that maybe somebody's there to feed me and change my litter box.